Which brings us to, Alyssa, our camaraderie question of the week. And it's kind of appropriate that we were talking about camaraderie and facilitating connection, because my hope is that as our audience listens to these episodes, they're starting to keep a list. Keep a list in your bullet journal, folks, of the camaraderie question of the week, and you will always have something you can use at meetings and huddles. We know bosses build camaraderie on teams by making it easier for people to find things in common with each other. So every week we give you a question you can use at meetings to facilitate connection and build camaraderie. So our camaraderie question of the week, Alyssa.
Okay.
If you could wave a magic wand, what gift or talent would you give yourself? And I think this question needs some additional clarification.
Okay.
This is
clarify.
not the superpowers question. Like if you could have any super. This is like a legitimate. Like you've met people have different gifts and talents, right? I've always wanted to play the trombone. What is the thing, gift or talent, that you would give yourself if you could wave a magic wand?
So maybe this isn't what you're thinking, but what comes to my brain hole, because unfortunately, even though I'm an optimist, I think of myself in terms of pessimistic terms, right? So I would think of something that I could banish from myself rather than necessarily a gift or a talent I want to give myself. Is that allowable? Can I do that?
Yes, tell us more about that.
Okay, so what I would like to banish for myself, because I think the sky would be the limit of what I could accomplish and think for myself. If I could only do away with my comparison seeking.
Ooh.
So if I didn't have to compare myself, my goals, my achievements, my to-done's list, any of those things to other people or even to my prior self, younger self, I think I would get so much more living done and be so much more available to achieve goals than I currently have the capacity to do.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for sharing that. That's a really thoughtful, reflective, internal observation.
Okay, cool.
And
thanks.
if
I'm
we
glad
treat
you feel
it
that way.
Of course. And if we treat that as a talent, that ability to banish your comparison monster.
Yes.
Talent requires practice. And so I'm going to answer the question, then I want to come back to yours.
Okay.
Because I think there are parallels.
Okay.
So my answer to the question is, I wish I could play the piano.
Oh, well, that's beautiful.
So my bachelor's degree is in music. I have a 4-year degree in voice. I am a singer. I am also
a good
the
one,
worst...
by the way.
Well,
good
thank
one.
you. I'm also the worst piano player to ever come through Indiana University of Pennsylvania's revered music education program. I would walk into the class piano room and the pianos would whine. They would literally cringe out of fear at what was about to happen. I get asked a lot by folks who are going to go get a music degree or a voice degree, a music degree, if I have any advice, and my advice is always the same. If you're going to study music and you don't play the piano, start lessons right now. And be prepared to practice for 2 hours a day, every day for the entire 4 years of your college education. And when you're done, you will be just passably, barely, awfully good enough to maybe make a living as a musician, especially if you want to be a music teacher. You got to be able to play your part and lead others. And I could never master the piano. A master is not even remotely the word I should use. I could never piano.
I don't piano either, Joe.
Okay.
But
and I
hear
love
the pain in your voice.
The idea of being able to play that music. I watch somebody like Billy Joel. My wife and I are huge Billy Joel fans. We've seen him a bunch of times in concert. Just to be able to sit down and do that, right, and to perform and to play in that way. I play the guitar, I sing, so I get to scratch that itch in a different way. But for me, there's something about the piano, and that's my magic wand thing.
Okay. So tell me about the parallels that you now see between your answer and my answer, because you always weave this beautiful thread. You might not think you can play a melody, but boy, you can weave one with words, fella.
My goodness, I like doing these podcasts because I leave feeling so good about myself based on all the nice things that you say. I think there are parallels. So while I have never been able to piano, I still believe that if I devoted myself to it enough, I could. Right? Mm-hmm. There's mastery is not the result typically of innate gifts. It's the result of practice. You know, I'm a musician, and my daughter wanted to start taking piano lessons. And the first thing I told her was, I want you to understand that you do not learn to play the piano because you take lessons. Mm-hmm. You learn to play the piano because you practice. Right? Wow. You can go to all the lessons you want. You can go once a week. You can go twice a week. But if you don't practice, you're not going to learn anything. It's not practice just for the sake of repetition. It's practice with the intention of getting better. Right? Malcolm Gladwell writes about this in his book Outliers, and we've all maybe heard the whole 10,000 hour comparison that he uses in the book. He talks about the Beatles and that you can only achieve mastery through repetition that pushes you. So my parallel, Alyssa, is if you want to banish the comparison monster, that is something you can acquire. It is a talent you can acquire through practice. So the question is, what do you need to practice? What do you need to repeat over and over again with the intention of progressively getting better to banish the comparison monster?
That is exactly the thing I needed to be reminded of, because I have this mantra in my head of I don't have to hate myself to want to change myself.
Ooh.
Okay. And so if I'm living in that comparison mindset, it creates this kind of self-hatred. Mm-hmm. And so I don't have to hate myself to want to change myself. Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me. And I can keep practicing that, and I can keep noticing it, and I can keep exercising those muscles. And so feeding it back to our initial conversation about not letting that atrophy, right? So I got to practice. I got to not make that stuff atrophy. I got to dig deeper and keep telling myself, do not have to hate myself to change myself.
And that, folks, is why she was the person I had to invite to be on this podcast, because otherwise we would have spent this entire segment talking about Billy Joel. But instead, we get some depth, we get some substance, and that, folks, is our camaraderie question of the week.